So they had choice. And once someone has choice and acts badly in a way that harms you, then you get to be angry. In fact, you will be angry. I mean, that's virtually a guarantee. You will be angry. Of course you will be. If someone consciously acts in a manner that harms you permanently, and don't misunderstand, don't underplay, when you have a bad childhood, you are permanently harmed. Doesn't mean that you're permanently broken, but you are permanently harmed. Even with all the self-will. I mean, look at me. I got cancer, right? It's because I had a hugely elevated chance of getting cancer as a result of childhood trauma. Right? You are permanently at risk. You are permanently harmed. And even if you do everything that you can to fix yourself, you are still permanently harmed because you had to spend all that time and energy fixing yourself rather than doing something else. I spent, I don't know, trying to think now, couple of years, 6 hours a week. Lordy, crazy. So what, 1,000, 1,200 hours in therapy? 1,800, yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, 1,800, 36, 4,000, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 hours in therapy, and huge amounts of money on therapy, and time. And this just in therapy. I also did journaling, and right, so I don't know, 10,000 hours of self-work to get myself, well, that's 10,000 hours I could have spent becoming an excellent guitarist, or learning Japanese, or any number of writing songs, any number of things. That stuff's all taken from me because I had to do all of that work just to get back to functionality. Not back to normality, but back to functionality. So yeah, I was permanently robbed, and will forever, my life will be forever shortened. I mean, most likely it's going to be shortened by a history of child abuse, but it is also shortened by all the time that I had to spend dealing with the effects of child abuse. So yeah, that pisses me the fuck off. I mean, that pisses me off. You know, if somebody had injected you with a drug that raised enormously your risk of cancer, or ischemic heart disease, or, I mean, you go through the fdrurl.com/BIB, or go to bombinthebrain.com, you'll see. If somebody had injected you with that kind of drug, you would actually be justified. Oh, they were waving that kind of drug in a, right? You would be justified in shooting them in self-defense. If somebody was going to inject you with that kind of drug, you would be entirely justified shooting them in self-defense in order to save yourself from such a fate, right? So yes, it is a murderous level of rage when you have been attacked consistently as a child. You will end up with a murderous level of rage. And anyone who has not experienced that or denies it is, you know, just not prepared yet, not ready for the reality of what has been done to them. So when you get angry, then you are signaling responsibility on the part of another. Because it's accident versus choice. So once you grant choice to your abusers, you reclaim choice for yourself. And the price of choice is rage. The price of choice is rage. Because the price of choice is the acceptance of and rational assignation of moral responsibility, right, to yourself and to others. And with moral responsibility comes, well, with choice comes moral responsibility, which comes evil for harm. And rage is our response to evil. And murderous rage is our response to life-threatening evil. Right? If some animal is trying to attack you, you will feel rage to the point where you will kill the animal rather than let it harm you. I mean, we do that for the most part with mosquitoes, and all they're threatening to do is take a bit of blood and give us a minor itch. But we, we'll often slap them, right? So rage is the healthy response to evil, to life-threatening evil, and significant child abuse is a life-threatening evil, right? It permanently harms you physically, raises cortisol levels, raises stress levels, permanently changes the brain, and causes nervous system realignments, and creates hugely elevated chances of becoming an abuser. And I mean, just it's a life-threatening experience, even if you don't become suicidal, or if you don't become addicted to something dangerous, whether it's fast cars or heroin or sex or gambling, something that's, could get you killed. Or just become a smoker, right? I mean, people who've gone through a lot of child abuse have a 20-year life, 20 years less life expectancy. So, murderous rage is what you're going to feel at having been so harmed by people making choices, right? Right. If somebody is going to inject your child with a life-threatening disease, you have the right to shoot them dead. And I would sort of question people who didn't do that, I guess you could say. So, or, if that was their only choice. I certainly would. Because I don't have the right to let somebody harm my child in that manner. So, rage is the recognition of choice and moral responsibility, and rage is to say, I reject it, I reject it, I reject it. And you need to reject it at such a fundamental level that your brain begins to reorganize at the unconscious level. So, this is why everyone teaches you forgiveness, so you don't get angry, so you don't change, right? It's the abusers who teach you forgiveness, so that they can further abuse you then for being angry at the abuse they provoked, right? Right, so if your mom abused you and you're angry, she can say, well, you need to learn to forgive and forget, and things are in the past, and move on, and right, so she gets to further humiliate you for being angry at the abuse you suffered at her hands, and perhaps fists and tongue. So forgiveness is just another abuse mechanism that is eminently encouraged by people who are abusers, or those who serve the needs of abusers by blaming the victims. Forgiveness is a way of blaming the victim for not being over your abuse, right? And it's usually only applied to children. All right. We don't say to victims of the Holocaust that they should give up trying to catch Nazi war criminals or get their money back from Swiss banks and so on. We don't tell them to forgive and forget. We don't tell rapists that they need to forgive their rape victims, that they need to forgive their rapists and so on. It's children that this is always applied to. So this is why I just have such a hate-on for what is talked about as forgiveness. If forgiveness is such a fucking virtue, then why do we not focus on having parents forgive their children rather than punish them? Because it's, right, children have no power, and we side with the powerful and hold the victims down while they can kick and beat and scold them and all that, right? That's natural. Natural now. It's not human nature. It's just natural as it stands. So, yeah, your parents had a choice. They're responsible for their choices. And when you fully accept that, that is going to make you very angry. And that anger is incredibly healthy, but incredibly dangerous. And you will be criticized for that anger from every cowardly and broken human being on the planet. Because anger threatens the cycle of abuse, which so many people are participating in, right? Anger breaks the cycle of abuse. Just as I've said before, if you want your immune system to get angry at a disease, to kill it, well, in the same way, you want to get angry, though not kill, right? You want to get angry at your abusers. And anger, which we're always told to not have, right? I mean, slaves can't be angry because the anger of the slaves ends enslavement. So, of course you'll be told don't get angry, for heaven's sakes. How could you possibly think about getting angry? You need to forgive. You need to forget. You need to move on. It's just poisoning you. It's not changing the other person. Well, of course, the whole anger, yeah, I mean, what the hell does anger have to do with changing the other person? I mean, if a lion is attacking you and your fight-or-flight mechanism kicks in, is that because you want the lion to turn into a gazelle? Of course not. Anger is simply recognition of harm, of chosen harm. So no, the idea that you get angry so that you can change someone, of course. I mean, why? But why would you want to stay around an unrepentant abuser? That's just continuing the cycle. And I mean, I guess you can make that choice if you're an adult, however unwise and masochistic that might be. But I would certainly not argue that you can easily make that choice when you have children, because you can choose to expose yourself to toxins. But I don't really think that you have an easily defensible right to expose your children to toxins. And unrepentant abusers are toxic to both your children and to you as a parent, right? Because it harms you as a parent, harms your capacity to be a parent, and thus interferes with what you can productively do for your children. So that's my argument. I hope it makes sense. I fully understand that's not exactly a ABC sequence of action, and I'm sorry for that. That is the path. Those are not the steps, right? And basically it's a GPS destination with a couple of waypoints, but not exact driving directions, because that's not something which I can really talk about in general, because it tends to be rather specific to each individual. But yeah, I mean, the Sith are right. Embrace your anger. Turn to the dark side. That's where the light is, right? You kick at the darkness till it bleeds daylight, as the singer once said. And you really need to, I say, embrace and accept your anger at evil, right? Otherwise, you'll end up taking out your anger on the good or the innocent, as your parents did, and you don't want that. You don't want that. That becomes very, very hard to recover from.